What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, gaming got battered with layoffs, multiple canceled games, and a whole bunch of questions around the future for these live service titles that many are still coming up. We'll go over all of that, though, here today. Also, we are going to be talking about an update for that impossible Nintendo Switch port that was recently discovered online, and we also have a brand new Raspberry Pi to go over, which is pretty exciting. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Spider-Man 2. We're getting closer, less than a month away. Of course, it's coming out October 20th, and it looks like many reviewers are just now getting their hands on it, which is actually pretty well in advance of that release date. But we also know when the embargo will be lifting, as Jeff Keighley decided to share it here on Twitter, where he says, "I'm in the possession of a complete copy of Spider-Man 2 impression review embargo on Monday, October 16th, 10 a.m. Eastern. I look forward to Jeff's review. I'm sure it'll be very, very good," or his impressions or what have you. But the Spider-Man 2, I'm curious what that Metacritic score is going to be. What the first one was like a 86, 87, something. It was like in the mid to high 80s. And I'm wondering if Spider-Man 2 is still going to be around there or if it can break into the 90s. So of course, leave your Metacritic prediction down below, and as we get closer to its release when the embargo lifts, we'll check it out and see what all the reviews have to say, and I guess see who got the closest. For me, I think I'm gonna sit with an 89. Like, they'll just be 1 point off Insomniac of breaking into that 90 tier on Metacritic. But I think it's gonna be an awesome title, and I'm really looking forward to it. Again, less than a month. Also, with that latest direct, of course, F-Zero 99 released, and people have been having a pretty good time with it. It's chaotic, sure, but it's an interesting experience that you really don't see anywhere else. And as we did go over some of the stuff that was data mined prior, it looks like Nintendo is indeed updating this game with a bunch of tracks and stuff. We can see those posted up on Twitter with the announcement from Nintendo of America, where they say an additional update for F-Zero 99 is now available for Switch Online members, along with Queen League being added to Grand Prix mode. You'll get 5 additional tracks, including Port Town 1 and Red Canyon 1, and this is pretty cool to see. Again, we went through some of the data mining stuff and things were pulled from the Satellaview, and it was like, oh, cool. Can they actually go in and add different tracks and things to this mode? And yeah, they're doing it now. So that's really fun. It's just an addition for NSO members, and it's a wacky idea, but somehow it works pretty well with F-Zero. So if you have not tried it out, I recommend giving it a try. They kind of start you off easier with less people on the track at once, more CPU opponents, and they work you up to eventually going on and taking part in F-Zero 99. Oh, and we did get a release date for consoles with Teardown, and it also looks like this is going to be another game that goes directly into PlayStation Plus day one. Now, we can see this posted up over on PlayStation Blog, where they say, we announced that our voxel-based destruction game would be coming to PlayStation 5. Now I'm excited to share that Teardown will land on consoles on November 15th, going on to say that it will be part of the PlayStation Plus game catalog on day one. Now, it's very important to note this is available with PlayStation Plus Extra and premium memberships. This is also coming to the Xbox Series platform, and it is already out on PC, where it has overwhelmingly positive reviews. I've never played Teardown. I don't know if it really looks like my kind of game, but the big thing here, it's like a voxel physics-based game, and it looks like you just do all kinds of crazy stuff in the game, messing around with different items, you blow stuff up, and kind of reminds me a bit of the Minecraft aesthetic. But again, it seems to be pretty popular on PC, also coming over now to consoles in November, and going to PlayStation Plus day one. It is sort of one of those things where if you have the service, you can download and give it a try. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with all the news that was flying around yesterday with canceled games, layoffs, and as I mentioned, a lot of questions around these live service titles that have been pursued over the last several years now. We're going to start, though, with Epic Games, as they announced a pretty sizable number of people being laid off. This was posted up, we can see over on their website, and this is an email that was sent out to Epic employees from Tim Sweeney. saying for a while now, we've been spending way more money than we earn, investing in the next evolution of Epic and growing Fortnite as a metaverse-inspired ecosystem for creators. I had long been optimistic that we could power through this transition without layoffs, but in retrospect, I see this was unrealistic. While Fortnite is starting to grow again, the growth is driven primarily by creator content with significant revenue sharing, and this is a lower margin business than we had when Fortnite Battle Royale took off and began funding our expansion. Success with the creator ecosystem is a great achievement, but it means a major structural change to our economics. Now, they do say that they are laying off around 16% of Epic employees, which is right around 800 to 900 employees total. And so Epic Games did acquire Mediatonic, of course, the creators, developers behind Fall Guys, and there was discussion that all of Mediatonic had been laid off, but Jason Schreier did clear this up, saying, while it's true that Epic Games' own Mediatonic was hit very hard by today's mass layoffs, reports and rumors that the entire studio was shuttered are not true. So here's the biggest thing. Epic is essentially admitting that, hey, Fortnite, one of the biggest games in the world right now, certainly up there as one of the top live service. They even call it like a metaverse experience. You put it next to Roblox, I guess, another really, really popular one. But even that in its current state is not making enough money to make this work, and they have to cut back on their expenses they can control, which would be their employees, and that's why you're seeing 16% of your workforce. That's a large number to do all at once, and it was just kind of announced like out of nowhere. And again, this is bringing up a lot of question marks around live service experiences, as it kind of looks like they are wavering a bit, or in Fortnite's case, maybe growing too fast, and they're not able to keep up with it necessarily, as obviously they were dumping a lot of money in for different collaborations and events and all this, and then getting creators involved, their margins actually went down over time. So it's a lesson that I think a lot of different companies are going to be learning the hard way. And unfortunately, it means the employees at the bottom of the company, really, who are not really in charge of a lot of the decision making as to where these games are going and what they are in the first place, they're the ones who are going to have to suffer the real consequences, which ends up being them getting laid off. Which actually rolls us into another company that had to announce layoffs or restructuring, as well as just canceling games, and that's Sega. This was posted up over on their website, where they say, here, the Sega Sammy Holdings hereby notifies that has resolved to implement structural reforms in the consumer area, mainly at its European bases, at the board of directors meeting held on September 28th, 2023. And in accordance with this decision, the company expects to record a loss for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. It seems like Sega's kind of getting out in front of this, as they are about to incur some pretty big expenses making all of this happen. And the biggest thing they're doing here seems to be anyway, with Creative Assembly, as they are canceling multiple projects that have not been announced yet, as well as one that has been, and is definitely in the spotlight, not necessarily in a positive way. They say, in response to the lower profitability of the European region, we have reviewed the title portfolio of each development base in Europe, and the resulting action will be to cancel Hyenas and some unannounced titles under development. Accordingly, we will implement a write-down of work in progress for titles under development. They say we will implement reduction of various fixed expenses of several group companies and relevant regions centered on the Creative Assembly. We expect to incur one-time expenses related to reduction of fixed expenses. We'll continue to consider measures to improve profitability in European bases. Apart from above, we will announce the specific details and impact from them as soon as we make the decision. And I can tell you now, reading that, it sounds like layoffs. And when we go over to Eurogamer, they did seem to get an update on the story, saying layoffs at Creative Assembly are expected in the wake of Sega's decision to cancel Hyenas. Eurogamer understands, with positions across the studio affected. Now, if you're unaware, Creative Assembly, while they were making Hyenas, which if you look at the like to dislike ratio, for example, on YouTube, where they introduced it and showed it off a bit more, I mean, it got absolutely crushed. It's like 8,000 dislikes to like 15 or 1,600 likes. It's a very generic looking game, even though people who have played it, which by the way, they did full beta tests for this thing. It seemed like it was almost ready to release, and then they just canceled it. Well, Creative Assembly is known for Total War. I mean, really, their library of titles is mostly that, along with a few other games mixed in, like Alien Isolation or Halo Wars 2. So, I mean, them showing up with the hyenas, certainly out of left field, I would say, but the fact that it got canceled seemingly at the goal line just about for this game to go gold and come out is, they must have looked at that and said, all right, this thing's not going to make any money. We can already tell before it gets in the hands of like the general population. And then on top of that, it appears that Blizzard has also had to do some layoffs, specifically though around the Hearthstone team. This according to Ethan Gotch over on Twitter at Kotaku, who says layoffs reportedly hit Blizzard today. A tools engineer at the company for 18 years said they were suddenly let go without notice due to a restructuring of the Hearthstone team. They were able to confirm with sources that 10 people were impacted, all within Hearthstone. Activision Blizzard also issued a statement saying organizational changes were made to the Hearthstone team. As a result, a small number of roles have become redundant. We want to thank these employees for their many contributions. So we just went over multiple live service games that are just not bringing in enough money, at least according to the higher ups here, which, we've gone over this multiple times. The higher ups, the executives, of course, keep their lucrative bonuses and all this, and then they usually just cut out employees that they deem redundant or non-essential, I guess is the other corporate term for all of this. But really, to me, we're just getting to that breaking point when it comes to these live service games, and there's only so many hours in the day. You only have a chance to make a good impression, once, really, right? And if you don't, then people kind of just move on to the next live service game, because there seems to be one like coming out or introduced like every other week at this point. It's a very, very saturated market, and if you're a company right now looking around and seeing all this happening with Fortnite not able to hold up Epic when it comes to 16% of their workforce, yeah, you gotta be having some serious second thoughts, but it might be too late. You could be 3 or 4 years into development and just about ready to introduce it, like Sony, who has 6 to 7 live service games currently in the works. Hopefully they're a bit more creative than hyenas, or they're gonna have some rough years ahead. But that's just kind of where we are with these live service games. We've seen it over the past year or so, with many of them shutting down, some studios just completely being dissolved. It's that inflection point now, and maybe a lot of these studios are just gonna end up learning the hard way. And unfortunately, that means, as I mentioned, a lot of the employees who are just building these games are the ones that'll suffer through layoffs. Next up, let's talk about an update for that impossible Nintendo Switch port that was recently discovered on the Brazil ratings board, and that is for Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Switch, after the Nintendo Switch category was noticed on the listing next to the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Well, we can see this posted up over on Nintendo Life with an update to the story, where they say the classification for a Switch version of Red Dead Redemption 2 is no longer showing on Brazil's rating board, which means it appears the addition may have been a simple mistake due to the recent release of the first entry on the Switch. Yeah, that is one of the possibilities that we did go over when the initial news broke, is like, well, this could just be them accidentally adding it to the wrong spot, and yeah, that's most likely what happened. Some are, of course, still going with this, saying, all right, well, maybe this is a game that's actually destined for the next Switch, and it's very possible that 4 years from now we see that, oh, Red Dead Redemption 2 is randomly just showing up on the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, Red Dead Redemption just now showed up on the Switch, so anything's possible, especially if Rockstar thinks there's money to be made on Nintendo's next platform, and there very well may be. But to me, at that point, if Grand Theft Auto 6, we'll say, is launching 2024 or maybe early 2025 or something like that, that's the one you figure that they would work to start porting over to Nintendo's new system so they can get there within a reasonable amount of time for that online part of Grand Theft Auto 6 to be very, very lucrative there as well. I mean, it's been incredibly profitable for them. It's generated a ton of revenue, so it seems like that might line up a bit better rather than just try to get Red Dead Redemption 2 over there with an online that is, all but forgotten about by Rockstar and Take-Two themselves. It is funny, though, I noticed with the Nintendo Life article they mentioned that they're happy that this isn't a thing because they would have dreaded to see what kind of cutbacks would have been made to get it there. I would have loved to see that. I'm really, really curious how the game would look on the Switch, especially after seeing what Mortal Kombat 1 looks now. I know they're not as comparable. One's like a fighting game. The other one would be a big open world action-adventure title. But I don't know, something about seeing a game that big functional on a portable system like the Switch using a Tegra X1 from 2015, it would have at least been interesting. At least for now, not necessarily expecting Red Dead Redemption 2 to pop up anytime soon, at least on this current Nintendo system. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Raspberry Pi 5. I've been anticipating this announcement for quite some time, especially after seeing what the Pi 4 could do when it comes to emulation, and hearing about some of the breakthroughs they were making with the Pi 5 is really exciting. And now we have the full announcement with the spec sheet and when it's coming out. We can see this post up over on their website, where they say, "Today we're delighted to announce the launch of Raspberry Pi 5 coming at the end of October. Priced at $60 for the 4GB variant and $80 for its 8GB sibling. It is open for pre-order now, so you can kind of get those orders in, as they will be shipping out at the end of next month. But we can see the spec sheet here, 2.4 gigahertz quad-core ARM Cortex-A76 CPU, the Video Core 7 GPU, and some of the benchmarks that are out now as videos did start to pop up, kind of just showcasing what it can do in, again, kind of the early state when it comes to support from the community, since just a few of these boards are out there at this time, coming in anywhere from 2 to 3 times faster than the Raspberry Pi 4. This will also support dual 4K 60 HDMI monitors. And one of the biggest next-gen features for a Raspberry Pi, it's got a power button. So yeah, I already have my pre-order in, absolutely, for the 8GB variant, and hopefully it shows up right at the end of October. We can check it out here in a video, load up some emulators, see what it can do with like the PSP and the Dreamcast, and maybe some GameCube, we'll see. But I'm just curious what this can do compared to that Pi 4, because some of those early benchmarks, really, really promising. And there's also a case with active cooling and just a lot of stuff to go over. So I'm really excited for it. Make sure you check it out and get your pre-order in if you can, because after what I saw with the Pi 4 and how those are marked up like crazy on places like eBay and Amazon, it's probably gonna be something pretty similar with the Pi 5. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, do you play Fortnite? Okay, so 35% say no, but I used to play at some point. Yeah, that's bad. I feel like most people have at least tried Fortnite, right? 8% say yes, but only a few times a month. 4% say a few times a week. 2% say you play it almost every day. And then just half of all people who voted say you've never played Fortnite. Hey, look, there's still plenty of people who can try to jump in at some point if they can, I guess, land the right licensing deal or something. At least that's how Epic's been kind of rolling with this, is just making every deal possible in entertainment and doing all these different events and just dumping tons of money in. And they seem to have found themselves in a spot where the margins continue to shrink with creators and they can't necessarily make it work anymore. Again, that's at least what they're saying. I'm sure the bonuses are still very nice for the executives at the top. But to me, as soon as you start seeing Fortnite falter a bit, you got to start running away if you're thinking about doing these live service games, because something tells me that House of Cards is it's on its way down soon. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Kat, who says, what I'm worried about is the next 6+ years filled with failed games as a service titles for PlayStation, and we have to spend half a decade waiting for a return to form. So it's going to be interesting with these games as a service titles coming out, and that's one of the reasons I feel like Sony will be hiring from within, and one of the reasons why I wouldn't be shocked if someone like Herman Holst ends up taking over for Jim Ryan, because he was there alongside of Jim Ryan when it came to greenlighting and setting up these games with their roadmaps internally, and he'll have to obviously steer them to the finish line, get them out in hopefully good form, and then have post-release support going forward. And the fact that Sony has basically said, not every one of these live service games is going to work out. That's some crazy stuff to me, but that's just the live service game. Cast that wide net and hope one of them brings in a serious haul, because apparently if one or two of them succeed, you're golden. At least that was the belief with Fortnite. And, well, maybe it's time to reevaluate this entire situation. But, yeah, when the next person comes in, it'll probably be PlayStation 6 that you would wait to see that, as you mentioned, return to form. Just keep in mind, I'm sure there are other single-player games that are more lining up with what Sony tends to do in development now as well. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether it's all the layoffs and game cancellations that were announced yesterday. How do you feel right now about the live service sector in gaming? And then also, what about Red Dead Redemption 2? Seems to be a mistake for that listing on the current system, but do you think that's something that could show up on Nintendo's next generation platform? And then the Raspberry Pi 5, what'd you think of the specs, the previews, and are you picking one up? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.